How you doing, everybody? Well, it's Carpo, and it's Friday morning. I think it's the 16th, I think, of January 2015. I got the year right. Today, I've been out here kind of getting a few things done in my room back there, and I answered a couple of comments on one of my videos. There was a particular video I uploaded about a year and a half ago, and it's called Alan Watts' Work is Play. It's a video that Alan Watts made, and I figured I've had, I think, 3 different people make comments on that video about, because it has a lot of views, you know, so it's one of those ones that I end up getting a lot of comments on, and I haven't blocked receiving notifications. If you have a video that has a lot of, you know, views, then you end up getting a lot of crap in your inbox, just people randomly saying stuff and talking to each other and whatnot. But I left it open because I like hearing what people have to say, and I think about 3 times now people have said, commented on the fact that Alan Watts was an alcoholic. And one guy left a comment the other day, and he said, "Wasn't he an alcoholic? If so, maybe somebody can explain that to me." And I said, "Well, what is there to explain? You know, the man liked alcohol. I don't know what else to say, you know. I don't know his personal life. There have been a lot of disputes about." He said, "Didn't he die from alcoholism?" And apparently he died in his sleep. I don't know if he died from alcohol or, you know, some other related illness. It's irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me how people die. It doesn't matter to me what drugs people use. But it brings up this question of, because the response he had when I asked him, "What do you mean?" he said, "Well, basically he's saying it detracts from his message, that he can't even live within what he's teaching." I said, this is so common in our world. So many people have this same problem. And if you go back and you look through history, you'll find that some of the deepest thinkers, some of the greatest philosophers, some of the greatest leaders, the greatest inventors, and some of the greatest theoreticians in history have all had addiction problems. They've had, you know, people like Sigmund Freud, who understood psychology. He thought that cocaine was like the answer to everything. There was a point in his life where he wanted to prescribe cocaine for all problems because he thought it was so great. Not that goes, you know, it has to do with it's not really relevant to that particular situation, because I don't know if Sigmund Freud himself was a coke addict. I don't remember, but altered states of reality become desirable when a person has seen into this reality so deep that everything that we come across becomes almost overwhelming. I guess it's hard to explain this. If you live an ignorant life, and I don't mean this offensively to anyone, you know, but let's say the uneducated groups of people that live in say other countries. I mean, the U.S. has pretty decent education, I guess, compared to some places, but we're still pretty down on the list. But having no education tends to breed fear of things that are different. This is why many war countries, we're actually on the decline as far as murders, as far as, you know, homicides in the world, always been on the decline over the centuries. So while it looks like everything's crazy right now, the reality is that it's actually on the decline, but it's still on the increase in areas where urban growth is too large and the education can't keep up with it. And what happens is, I think that people, for example, many of these areas where education is really poor, they're very, very opposed to any drug use or altered states. Whereas in the cities where the highest educated people are, drug use is rampant. And so it makes you wonder, why do the more educated people tend to have more addiction problems? Is it because you see the world and can't cope with it? Or is it because you're trying to compensate for the craziness of thinking in everyday life? If you don't do much deep thinking, then this world can continue to be enough, I guess. And it's very difficult to explain, because I don't want to make it sound like, you know, like this world isn't enough, because it is. And being sober in this world and being completely drug-free, completely habit-free must be a great thing. But it should never detract from the message of a person just because they use a substance. Or, you know, it's obvious if a person's being a hypocrite and they're saying you should love and then they hate. I mean, that's a different thing. But, you know, many of these spiritual teachers aren't telling you don't use drugs and then they're using them. They're not being hypocritical about it. They're just saying, this is what I do, this is what I say, you can listen or not. I mean, for example, me. I mean, a lot of people listen to what I have to say for some reason, and I smoke marijuana. So, you know, I'm just a dumb stoner to some people. But to others, they know that just the fact that I smoke pot doesn't detract from what I'm trying to say. And I don't think it should for anybody. I don't... It's different if you're completely loaded and you're trying to explain yourself to someone, or you're trying to make... I don't make videos totally wasted, you know, because your mind's not working at that point. But the fact that a person uses substances in their daily life shouldn't detract from the message, because they still have a sober, coherent state that they can function from, at least sometimes. I mean, I guess if you're a full-blown alcoholic and you're always drunk, then, you know, your message might be lost in that. But, I mean, most people would agree that pot smokers aren't dumb people, but people who smoke pot all the time are more likely to be kind of, you know, because they're abusing it. And same with alcohol. A person who drinks once in a while can enjoy the experience. A person who drinks all the time, you know, it may get to them. So there is a degree to where it can interfere with the message the person's trying to say. But I think that there's a lot to be said about addictions and philosophy and thinking, inventors. Many of the people who went crazy in their later years, like Tesla, like Einstein, whether it be over spiritual inconsistencies, maybe they're trying to correlate God with science, or maybe it has something to do with an addiction, but people go crazy. People have weird experiences in life, and the more you learn about life, the more crazy you start to feel. So this is just from my personal opinion and my experience, but the more I learn in my life, it seems like the harder it is to float on that surface without just metaphorically just wanting to explode into everything and become one with everything. And it's an overwhelming feeling, an overwhelming experience. Being able to embrace everything. Like the morning you wake up, you know, you might stress at night, and you wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I've got to deal with this, I've got to change these things and do this. And then midday you're feeling good, and then in the evening you're starting to get tired, and we go through all these cycles, and some of us take up habits along the way. Like our evening cycle comes with a bowl of pot or a beer, and our morning cycle comes with our coffee and our cigarettes, and, you know, it's just who we are. You know, we want to experience something different because life becomes just so overwhelming sometimes. While I might stand here and appear to, you know, to some to be completely out of my mind, or, you know, a loser or a loony or whatever, to other people I'm going to appear to be totally together, that maybe my life's just perfect and great. I've had people be like, you know, how do you live, you know, and always be happy? I'm like, I don't. I'm human. I get pissed off. You know, I get mad. I yell at my kids when they're misbehaving, and I get frustrated sometimes, and maybe don't give the attention I could to certain things that I need to do. That's just me. That's just my personal, you know. So what I do is, instead of worrying about my, you know, the things I need to work on, you know, just letting it get to me, I just say, well, I'm going to slowly work on this, and in the meantime, I'm going to just be who I am. If I want to take some kratom in the morning, or drink a cup of coffee, or smoke a bowl of pot, so be it. And it shouldn't detract from what I say, and I don't think any fact that alcoholic, you know, like, see, I'm one who, I don't drink, so it could be easy for me to stand here and say, oh yeah, if you're an alcoholic, man, you know, you're all messed up. It doesn't work that way. All addictions are the same. Pot, alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, they're all addictions that people have, and it doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean all the addictions are the same. It just means that it doesn't make a person lose their sense of who they are unless they allow it to consume them. So there's people who use substances and there's people who abuse substances, and what else do you say about it? You know, I just feel like it's pointing the finger. It's almost like saying if a person's, you know, we do the same thing with religion. You know, if a person has a different religion, we don't take their opinion to mean much. At least that's the way I've been treated by people who are religious. If I try to explain myself very calmly and collectively, I'm instantly labeled a heretic and an atheist and all these things. And I think the same thing happens with people who are different in their addictions. You know, stoners are likely to hang out with stoners. You know, alcoholics will hang out with alcoholics, because you can have that echo chamber and that the affirmation that, you know, you're not alone in this world. I guess it's not about being right or justifying anything. That's not what it's about. It's never about justifying addiction, because everybody who has addictions wants to conquer them. It's just that learning to live with them, sometimes they can help us short term or even long term. But I guess I'll leave on this note. You know, we have our endogenous morphine in our body, which you call endorphins. I've heard that term before. It's endogenous morphine, meaning the body makes its own morphine. Some people have a problem with their endorphins, and they need more painkillers to help them when they're in pain. The endocannabinoid system is basically the body's natural cannabis system, which we only found out about 10-15 years ago, and we're able to really prove. Some people have lower degrees of certain natural cannabinoids in their body, and perhaps cannabis helps them with that. And another person, it's the exact opposite. The effect maybe is too much. I can't say that there's an alcohol system in the body that we need to replenish, but you know, you get at what I'm saying, is that we use drugs to medicate for certain conditions, even if they're just self-created mental conditions. And people need to get over it in their own time, and sometimes people never do. But a guy like Alan Watts has a lot of phenomenal things to say, and it's sad to me that someone would disregard what he says merely because he drank alcohol. And it shows a degree of intolerance and misunderstanding in society, I think. So, but that's just coming from a guy who has his own addictions, right? It's easy for me to justify. Take care, everybody.